Hello, welcome to You Are My Boro with myself, Dom Shaw, and Scott Wilson on Carabao Cup semi-final first leg day. Chelsea are at the Riverside tonight. It's what it's all about, games like this, days like this, nights like this, and it's Scott.
It certainly is. Yeah, it certainly is. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think in other circumstances, Boro fans would have come away from the game on Saturday night thinking, God, that was a bit of an opportunity missed there. We had a right good go against a Premier League team, and we've got done by the streakiest of goals right at the end. But because this game was just around the corner, I don't think there was any of that. I think the mood was right. Okay, that's a nice little aperitif. Let's get ready for the real thing on Tuesday night. And yeah, I mean, listen, we've been speaking, haven't we, all the way through when they've been slogging around Huddersfield, Bradford, Bolton, Exeter, goodness knows where, that, who knows where this could end up. Well, we're here now in a massive two-legged semi-final, and it's going to be a hell of a night. It's going to be great, but just hope that Boro can probably lay a bit more of a glove on Chelsea than they managed to against Villa. Because if there was one criticism at the weekend, it was probably that for all they were really competitive, they didn't really look like hurting Villa massively, other than probably right at the end. And at some stage over these two legs, they're going to have to find a way of hurting Chelsea. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but you would think, in front of a fully wound up Riverside, it's going to be their best chance, isn't it?
I don't want to obviously look back at the Villa game. We'll look to tonight, but that other than winning, clearly, that the manner of the defeat felt like the best possible scenario, and I include a draw in that because a replay no one wanted really from Boro's perspective. I think if you're not going to win, to lose in that manner, in the last minute, and it didn't really, clearly it felt like a sucker punch, but because of the manner and the goal and the way Boro played and what was following on the Tuesday afterwards, the kind of the overriding emotion and feeling afterwards was like, wow, we gave that a right good go. That sets us up nicely now, rather than the feeling of misfortune, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely bang on with the replay. I mean, Michael Carrick can never come out and say that clearly, but it would not surprise me if he's sitting there on the bench with 10 minutes left thinking, Christ almighty, we've got another game coming here. We're going to go to Villa Park. Let's be brutally honest. Boro are unlikely to win a replay at Villa Park if Unai Emery decides to take it seriously. So it's just another game shoehorned in between the two semi-finals, more load on the players, more risk of injury, etc., etc. So yeah, while it is a disappointment to go out the FA Cup, the fact that these games, as you rightly say, were just around the corner, I think tempered any of the disappointment from it. And Boro played well. They can take a lot of confidence from that game, because for long periods of that game, they were more than a match for the team that's second in the Premier League, and at the moment is a better team than the one they're going to be facing this evening and in 2 weeks' time down at Stamford Bridge. So I think there was a lot of reasons for positive, a lot of optimism to come out of that game. It's just a question of now, can they raise it that little bit more, particularly when they're attacking?
Tonight then, if you go in, first things first, and you haven't seen yet, Red Faction and 12th Man both have things planned at the Riverside tonight. Yeah. So if you're a supporter, obviously, and you're there tonight, Red Faction put something out last night saying that we urge everybody in the South Stand to be in their seats for 7:45 p.m. Please hold up the material as the teams emerge from the tunnel that'll be on your seats, and keep aloft until kick-off. Once used, please pass all materials down to MFC staff to be disposed of. We'd also like to actively encourage every Boro fan inside the stadium to bring a scarf and bring the noise, which brings us on to 12th Man, who've been urging all fans to take a Boro scarf tonight. And they tweeted last night, please be in your seat for 7:45. As the players come out the tunnel, raise your scarf above your head. You can still join in the pig bag if you wish, but the sight of a sea and red and white scarves around the stadium and the display in the South Stand can only help the players. With those two in mind, it promises to be quite the atmosphere, doesn't it?
Feels like a big night, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It feels like it, and it feels like an opportunity, doesn't it? Because yes, Chelsea are Chelsea, but they're not quite yet the Chelsea that they were when they were sweeping all before them in the Abramovich era, etc. They've definitely improved under Pochettino. They've had a good month and a half, but they're certainly not unbeatable, I don't think, and that's why this is such a tantalising game, because it's a big game. Boro are the underdogs. There's no doubt about that. But it feels like they've got a chance. It really does. And it feels like if they can get any kind of a result tonight, then there's going to be so much pressure on Chelsea and Pochettino in a fortnight's time that it does, you do think anything could happen down there. The key thing clearly tonight is not to be out of the tie.
Being in it.
It's the old first round of the Open Golf Championship. Boro can't win the game tonight, but they could lose it.
Yeah.
And that's the key, I think, that whatever happens, they've got to be in it when they go to Stamford Bridge, because like I say, all of a sudden then all the pressure is on Chelsea to get the job done.
Chelsea beat Preston 4-0 in the FA Cup on Saturday. And at a glance there, you think like, oh, Christ. Although it should be pointed out here that Preston are one of the worst teams we've seen at the Riverside this season, despite the fact that they've been well placed much of the season. But at half-time at the Riverside on Saturday, I was just having a flick through Twitter and I'd seen a national reporter who was there, I can't remember who, slaughtering Chelsea, saying how bad they'd been. Obviously, all the goals came in the second half. Then Pochettino, I was reading yesterday, has basically warned his players, if you perform like you did in the first half at Preston, you won't get away with it again. And then it goes back to what we've talked about previously. I was at the Newcastle-Chelsea League game earlier this season. You were at the Chelsea-Newcastle Cup game. But in that league game, Chelsea were decent in the first half, but went under so quickly when things were up against them in the second half. I've used this term again and again and again. I just think they've got a soft sender.
Yeah.
If Boro get at them and make it really difficult for them, I think they've got a soft sender.
Well, yes. And for all that they obviously got the job done against Newcastle, that was a strange game in that Newcastle were probably at the very, very worst of their kind of injury crisis. And they basically went there and just fairly un-Newcastle under how, went backs to the wall. And Chelsea had all the possession, all the ball, but really looked clueless for long, long periods of that game. I thought they looked like a team of individuals. And
which was apparently the case in the first half against Preston.
Right, okay. And that kind of harks back to what you were saying about Newcastle, that, I still don't think there's a real team there. I don't think Pochettino's got anywhere near kind of the stages of where he wants to get to with that team and that squad. They obviously brought in a whole host of signings in the Todd Bowley era. Some are starting to bed in. Some are nowhere near. They just feel like a team of individuals. So that's partly why I keep coming back to, if Boro can go down the Stamford Bridge with any kind of a chink, then I think Chelsea could crumble under what will be massive pressure on them. So yeah, clearly the dream tonight is that Boro win the game over 90 minutes and have a lead to hold on to down there. I even think if they can get a draw,
yeah, I do.
They're well positioned then, because I think then, like I say, all the pressure is on Chelsea, and if Boro can dig in down there and be a threat on the counter-attack, which this Boro side has shown in previous matches it can be, then that's almost a template for the way they've got to try and do it, I think. But listen, let's say, like I said, they've got to stay in it tonight. Maybe Chelsea will come and the gulf between where they're at in the Premier League and where Boro are at in the Championship will actually be wider than we're thinking it's going to be. But as we sit here at the moment, I do think Boro have a right chance.
A bit of news, if you haven't seen, Seny Dieng is heading back from the African Cup of Nations. It was alluded to, reports came out of Africa on, what day is it, Monday morning. Michael Carrick at his press conference on Monday afternoon, which we'll get to just now, at that stage said, I can't say either way. Basically just suggested that he was in conversation with Seny, and then it came out overnight. I think they played a friendly last night, and Alou Cisse, their manager, confirmed it last night. He's coming back because he's injured, so he's clearly not going to be in contention. But that's a signal for him, clearly from a personal point of view. But hopefully he comes back and is back in amongst it soon enough. Although it should be said here that I think Tom Glover has been excellent in Dieng's absence.
Brilliant this weekend, wasn't he?
Yeah, really, really staking a claim, which leads us on to what I want to talk about. The other player who's done that is Dan Barlaser in midfield without Hackney. Now Hackney's back. What does Carrick do tonight? I'll run through what I think are the two options, three options. One, he drops one of them. Secondly, he sticks with the system he played against Villa on Saturday, which is a back three, which would probably be Vandenberg, Fry and Clark, wing backs Jones and probably Bangura or Engel. And then with so many attacking midfielders out tonight, obviously Greenwood, Rodgers and Azaz all can't play. We'll get to that Rodgers thing in a minute. But then with all of those unavailable, I just wonder whether he's tempted to play a midfield three rather than a two and then Crooks off Latte, Lath and Coburn, or even, and I think this is unlikely, Coburn and Latte, Lath. The other one that you discussed beforehand is a midfield 2 of Barlasser and Howson, and then Hackney on the left of the attacking 3, which he has done in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's the team that's running down the bottom. If you put a gun to my head, that would be the one I think he would go for. Because
I think so as well.
Having said that, though, clearly the fact that he went with the 3 at the weekend, almost as a dry run, is interesting. And the defence fared well, didn't they? It wasn't like Villa were tearing them apart and creating a whole load of chances. So I don't think it's out the question that he plays 5 at the back and the 3 in midfield, and then, like you say, kind of dispenses with any notion of attacking wide players, uses the wing backs, and then has Crooks playing off Latte Lath. But I think I would think he's more likely to stick with the 4, the tried and tested, Howson and Barlasser alongside each other, Hackney coming off the left with the option of interchanging a bit with Crooks if he wants to. You can play Hackney as the 10 and push Crooks out for a little bit if needs be. I mean, there's certainly one square peg in a round hole there. But it's not too much of a leap of faith to ask Hackney to play that role, is it? Let's be honest. You know, it's not a radical switch for him.
I can't remember the game, but he did do it last season, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain he did. Yeah,
he did, but I can't remember the game. I should have checked it before we came here. Going forward, because Lewis O'Brien isn't too far away now. Going forward, that midfield, you know, because O'Brien, you would think, I know he played left back before he was injured, but that was when Engel and Bangura were both very much finding the feet. He's not going to be needed there now. Like, picking 2 from them 4 when everyone's fit. Well, it almost feels like 1 from 3, really, because surely Hackney plays when he's fit.
Yeah, you would have. I mean, longer term when everyone's back, to what extent can Hackney be a 10? Yeah. Or is that too much, asking him to do too much different at the minute? What you lose with Hackney at a 10 is that ability to just drive the ball up the pitch, which he's absolutely great at. And that's what he gives you when he's playing, you know, in a classic, if you like, central midfield role, that he will drive the ball up the pitch and he will get Boro kind of 20 yards forward. And then obviously we know he can pick a pass. He's great technically. He holds onto the ball really well. So everything that you really want from a central midfielder is there with him. Him as a 10 does allow you, I suppose, to keep Howson and Barlasser together, or bring O'Brien if you want, and have him more creative. But I don't know, maybe you're losing too much of his kind of energy and just drive in that position.
And Boro's so well stocked now in the attack.
Well, that's the other argument, isn't it? They've also now got 10s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the subject of 10s, Morgan Rogers misses out tonight. What are your thoughts on this? So he misses out.
So you were at the presser yesterday, weren't you? Just talking through kind of Michael Carrick's feelings.
So he's missed out. If you're not aware, he's missed out tonight. He's suspended, having picked up 2 yellow cards in 5 games. And the rules are that if you pick up 2 yellow cards before the end of the quarter-final games, you then serve a 1-match suspension. Clearly in the next game, which is the semi-final first leg, if you pick your second yellow up in the quarters. That feels harsh to me. Carrick agreed, especially when it gets to this stage. I think where it particularly kind of sticks in the throat, if you're connected to Boro, is Liverpool, who are still in this competition, came into the competition 2 rounds later. So they have 2 fewer games to play, and yet the same rules apply. 3 in 5 games, I'd get, 3 in 5 games, but I don't know, 2 just feels harsh to me. And the other thing is yellow card at Port Vale. And like, I know this is proper football fan talking, and a referee would laugh at this argument. It was a yellow card offence, but it was in like 7 or 8 minutes. For me, it's the classic case of like, have a word, settle things down and have a word. It's not very often you see a yellow flashed as early as that, is it?
I think you make a very good point about the fact that there is a clear discrepancy between teams playing different numbers of matches within that yellow card window. Now, interestingly, obviously there can be no VAR in the Boro game tonight, can there? Because
there isn't a Liverpool either, is there?
So the EFL made the decision, right? Well, we'll have no VAR at all in the semi-finals, in either semi-finals game. So even though Fulham Liverpool, you could have VAR both games, they decided, now unlike the FA Cup, obviously, where you've got the situation where some do and some don't, they decided, no, we want a level playing field in our competition. Well, it's not a level playing field, as you quietly pointed out, when it comes to suspensions being accrued from yellow cards in the early rounds, because you've got some teams starting in the first round, some teams not coming into the third round. So I think it's something that should be looked at, because I think you're right. Picking up 2 cards in 5 games, which is what Rodgers is getting punished for, would be very, very different to a Liverpool player picking up 2 yellow cards in 3 games, when really you wouldn't have an argument, and a suspension would feel probably justified in that. So I think it's something that does need looking at, because it feels unfair on Boro that just by dint really of playing more matches, they're statistically going to be more likely to have a player who picks up 2 yellow cards.
And I don't know whether you'd seen it.
And just on the back of it as well, you talk that the teams who do play in the earlier rounds are probably going to be less likely to be able to cover for suspensions than a Liverpool or a Man City or whatever, who as we know, have squad lists the length of blooming goodness knows what. So, you're punishing the teams who can are least able to cover those gaps.
And to add, to kind of rub salt in the wounds, I don't know whether you'd seen, I've just looked, it's been deleted. The official Carabao Cup account yesterday tweeted, because Morgan Rodgers is obviously the top scorer in the competition, words to the effect of, will the top scorer add to his tally tomorrow night? And Boro quote tweeted was something like, does this mean his suspension has been rescinded? It's been deleted then, which you can well understand. But yeah, I'm sure because there has been a fair bit of confusion about this over the last week, but as I'm sure you're aware by now, Morgan Rodgers misses out tonight, which is desperately unfortunate for him, because he's been so impressive of late. What do we reckon then? Predictions, let's round it up.
I think Boro will keep themselves in it. I think it might be a draw tonight. Which
1-1, I think.
Yeah. I could definitely see a 1-1. And like I say, the narrative at the end of that nationally will be, well, that's Chelsea through. That Chelsea have done enough. They've avoided a banana skin up at the Riverside. They'll beat them at Stamford Bridge. I wouldn't be so sure. I would have a draw down as a perfectly reasonable result for Boro tonight. And I think that gives them a puncher's chance down at Chelsea. I really do, because like I say, I think that will put an awful lot of now clearly, what you don't then want to do is, if that is the score, is go down to Stamford Bridge and concede in the first 5 or 6 minutes. Then you're up against it, everything changes, etc. But no, I think Boro, I can see a draw. You?
Yeah, I agree. Everyone I've spoken to since the draw's been made has said what we've been saying on here. Be in it. Go to the second leg, still in it. Which, as you said before the draw was made, if you're going to get a Chelsea or a Liverpool, more so Chelsea, clearly Liverpool would have been a massive, massive ask over 2 legs. But more so Chelsea, better to be at home first, because you give yourself the chance, or more of a chance, to be in it in the second leg. And I agree with you that if Boro draw tonight, clearly Chelsea would be favourites in the second leg. But the pressure is very, very much on them. And I think Boro go there with really kind of nothing to lose and everything to gain, and with the game probably set up to play into their hands. So, yeah, I think that'll be a good, obviously for everyone connected, what you don't want tonight is just a deflating 2-0 where it feels like you're going to that second goal.
A monumental mountain to climb.
Yeah. But I don't think it will be. I think like the atmosphere, what we talked about, the fact that Boro have built up to this, the fact that Boro are playing relatively well, I know inconsistently, but well, and Chelsea, I know they've won the last 3, but have kind of stuttered through the first half of the season. Yeah, I do just have a feeling Boro will get something tonight.
Do we take anything at all from the fact that we're hurtling towards the 20th anniversary of what next month, and is that just really, really clutching at straws? Football fandom. I mean,
Well, Carrick's been asked about it. Carrick's been asked about it every round since I think the third time, and he batted it away. And yesterday it was, are you aware of it? What do you remember of it? And I mean, if you're a football romantic, then it writes itself, doesn't it?
God, doesn't it just? Yeah, doesn't it just? It would be fantastic, clearly, but Yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's see.
I mean,
I'm really looking forward to it. I've got to admit.
Yeah, I am.
It's very rare we get to sit alongside each other at a game because obviously normally one of us is doing Boro, one of us is at Sunderland or Newcastle. So it's a bit of a rare treat to be able to chew the fat while we watch what's going on.
Yeah, so make sure you're obviously get on the Northern Echo site straight after the game and have a flick through our analysis and obviously pick up the paper in the morning as well and read the report into what will hopefully be a positive night for Boro. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Do subscribe, obviously, to You Are My Boro on YouTube if you haven't already. And we'll be back later this week to chew the fat about the game and to look ahead to the weekend. Enjoy the game tonight.